It's unlike Donkey Kong, this is one of my favourite paint schemes that we do on the channel. We've primed it black and then we've painted it black, just so when we make a mistake and we clean up, it all matches. Because one brush stroke in, you can see I've already made a mistake. For the Avatar of Khaine, we're shooting for an internal RGB glow. So we need all that black to act as our contrast, and then we're going to go in with white for every little recess. If you try to replicate this paint job, seriously do not worry about all the overspill. It's actually quicker to do it this way and correct all those little mistakes as you go, instead of spending the extra time to not make those mistakes in the first place. Because even if you're trying your hardest, you're most likely still going to make those mistakes. Another thing to keep in mind with this is there is a lot of texture on this body. And sometimes it can be a little bit harder to know which one to paint for the internal glow and which is just kind of surface level. This is where the rule of cool comes in, just trying to make sure that you have everything balanced more so than everything painted. And obviously we're going to black in all the white flames as well. And while we're talking about painting white over black, you're probably not going to get the perfect coat first time. And if you do, your paint is so thick that it's spelled with 2 C's, probably has an OnlyFans page and an 18 plus only Discord. It's perfectly fine and honestly expected to have to do 2 or 3 coats. Now that we're finished with all those flames in the internals, we're going to go around with all the armor. For this part, I aim for more the trims and the runes. The helmet gets a little bit of edge highlighting, and that's really about it. Again, we've got to make sure that we've got a balance in here between the black and all the colors, so you don't want to go too ham and paint everything. In saying that, you have to remember that we're also not painting this model in this particular style with traditional volumes. This is where edge highlighting and picking out all the trim is absolutely crucial to the RGB style. We want to try and create a silhouette of the model so the eye picks up, registers, and can determine what all the shapes are that we're looking at. Think of it in the same way as outlining a drawing. There's no 3-dimensional shapes, so we have to manufacture those. Before you click away angrily and drop a comment saying all the good paint guides you need an airbrush for, I am going to show you how to do this with a traditional brush. Just wait. And if you are here for the airbrush, trust me, you're going to want to wait and see the normal brush one too. Now here's the big thing that you actually can drop a comment for. When it comes to the airbrush, there is going to be a lot of overspray. There is absolutely no way to avoid it. But here's the thing, do you prefer it with the overspray or paint it back over? Personally, I struggle with this decision because I kind of like both ideas, but spoilers, I did go back and paint over the black just to kind of bring back that contrast a little bit more. And here's a little tip for using fluorescent yellow. Leave a little bit of the previous orange in there so it heats it back up. Fluorescent and neon yellows kind of have a tendency to pull back into a green, so if you keep that little bit of warmth in there or add a little bit of extra warmth, you'll keep it as a true yellow. And believe it or not, that actually helps the green seem more green. Another tip for working with fluorescents and neons is it doesn't matter if you're using an airbrush or a traditional paintbrush, you're going to have to give it 2 to 4 coats. The coverage on any fluorescent is not fantastic, so to try and build up some kind of saturation or opacity, you really do need to give it a couple of whacks. And this is what I was talking about. We went back in with the black and kind of fixed it all up. But seriously, drop that comment. Tell me, did you prefer the overspray where it looked like it was glowing or nice and clean with all the black filled in? If you do decide to pump the contrast and go back with black, be as careful as possible because it is a huge pain in the ass to clean up the colors from here. If you do overspill, it's not the end of the world. You'll probably just have to go back in with some white and then most likely hand brush that fluorescent in. Unless you're incredibly quick and you can go back in with a damp brush and kind of wick it all away. And before we get to the next part, I'm just going to give you the recipe right now. It is 1 part matte white to 5 parts wall paint stabilizer. Warning. The following scenes contain highly sensual content. Publicly enjoying this material may result in the manifestation of Slanesh. If watching the capillary action of paint flowing through recesses gets you all hot and steamy, it's fine, perfectly natural. And no, you won't go blind from doing it too much. As I mentioned before, it is 1 part matte white paint, 5 parts wall paint stabilizer. And yes, absolutely, you could use oil washers for this. I just find it a lot easier to go and get a single bottle of wall paint stabilizer, mix it in with the white, and it does the same thing. The only difference is all those little splodge marks you have to go back in manually and paint over. Which honestly is still quicker than waiting for oils to dry and easier than going to have to buy a whole bunch of separate materials just to do that. I also didn't have to varnish any of it that was straight over the primer. After that's all cleaned up, we get to use the effects paint as they were originally intended, with a brush flowing down into recesses. And in this one step, I'm going to show you two different methods. Using a large full-bellied brush, you're going to get a lot of overspill. You're going to feel those recesses, but it's going to act somewhat the similar way to the overspray that we get from the airbrush, compared to using a hyper-thin brush, which is going to give you a lot cleaner results. Are you ready for the money shot? If you made it this far, hit like, hit subscribe, maybe drop a comment. It's all free. As always, thank you to the Army Panda in-games and all of our awesome Patreons. Say hi to your mum for me.